So I'm at Melbourne Airport, waiting to fly to Canberra, and I thought this would be a great opportunity to talk to you about preparing for flight in the week before you go. Good idea, don't you think? Catch you soon.
Hi all, Les Posen here, Fear of Flying clinical psychologist. Welcome back to the channel if you haven't been here for a while. And to new people, I hope you have lots to learn while you're visiting me. This past week, I took a couple of flights with patients. One of them, a family with a newborn. We were just checking out whether all together could do a couple of flights without too much difficulty, and they all passed with flying colours, which was great. And on the second day, that was down to Hobart, and on the second day I flew with someone who hadn't been on a plane for quite some time, and it was time for him to get back in the saddle, literally. So we flew to Canberra and back. These two patients had something in common, and that was that, unlike many patients, it wasn't turbulence and it wasn't safety issues or noises on the plane. It was basically getting themselves into the plane where they're going to be, in their words, trapped for a while before they could be let out. And so we could call that claustrophobia, I suppose, although it tends to be an overused expression. Nonetheless, for both of them, it was the lead up to the flight, the waiting to get on board, the several minutes, and in one case it took us 20 minutes after we'd boarded and we were about to go, and then they discovered a bag was on board but no passenger, so we had to remove the bag. That delayed us for 20 minutes, and it was that time we were sitting up at the front under my tutelage, and so that was a challenge, because there was that little voice calling out, "You don't have to be here, you can get off anytime you like." An old voice that had been churning away, monkey mind like. And so these patients had that in common. And so I thought, many of you, since we're coming up to Easter and in Australia at least we're now on school holidays, it seems to me that what are you going to do in that week that you've planned your trip? What can you practice, given that you've learnt a lot if you've been following my channel? What can you do in that week leading up to your flight to better manage yourself, rather than saying, well, let's see how I go on the day, I hope all I've learned kicks in? My feeling about these things is that in the lead up to that flight, you must set aside some time to practice the very things that are going to tell your threat and response center, situated in your limbic system, the instruction to stand down at ease, monitor for things where I'm perhaps truly in danger. But apart from that, leave me alone. Just let me get on to this flight and do what I've got to do to get to the destination. Okay? That's very, very important. We don't necessarily need to find out how did your claustrophobia or how did your situation in a plane that terrifies you get started. Sometimes we never find out. Sometimes we do find out, and when the person goes and ask someone who was there at the time, they thought it got started, they get a completely different story. That's not how it happened at all. So while it's useful, intellectually so, I'm more interested in what's maintaining this behavior, what's maintaining your fear profile, for want of a better term. So if you think about sort of claustrophobia, and I'm going to work on turbulence and loss of control and takeoffs and landings in another video to come. So let's just work, if we can, on the being enclosed in tight spaces, where I can't escape when I choose to. That choice, by the way, is usually when I'm feeling so uncomfortable, or I'm predicting I will feel so uncomfortable, that the easiest way to dilute or to diminish these sensations are to leave the plane or not get on in the first place. Find some plausible reason why I can't do this. Okay. Look, that could be helpful up to a certain point, but really it's not the way forward, is it? We all know that. You've got to actually put yourself in that plane and experience and test out whether your theories of what will happen are actually true or just theories. just warning shots across the bow. So if we're going to talk about being on claustrophobic stuff first, one of the things that we can do to practice during the week before we go. So what we want to practice is some sort of simulation set of exercises where we are going to purposefully put ourselves in situations where we're going to come close to experiencing the kind of thoughts, sensations, and behaviors which bear a strong, I'm going to use the clinical term, verisimilitude, similarity in truth, to what we know we might expect on that plane. That might expect is based on what I've experienced in the past, and the prediction is, well, that'll all happen again. It'll be a terrible experience. So what we want to do is we want to test out, we want to conduct some experiments and test out that the sort of tactics I might use on the plane in the real McCoy can actually be rehearsed without being on the plane. So if it's an elevator phobia, you can kind of practice that on a daily basis if you want to. Find a nearby elevator if you've near a business that's even 3 stories tall. You can practice being in an elevator with the doors closing and in motion. Plane stuff, not easy to simulate. So what we've got to try and do is simulate the thinking, the sensations, and the behavior. Now in rehearsing, we want to rehearse 3 things. The experience of sensations, which we've used as our stimulus, our triggers to go, uh-oh, I don't know that I want to be here. This is going to be a disaster. How do I get off this thing? That then alludes to the second thing we want to practice, and that's what's the right thing to do when I have these automatic thoughts kick in, either as a result of experiencing sensations, or those thoughts kick in the sensations when I have those thoughts. My heart starts to race a bit. I start to get short of breath. And you can see there's this loop going around here that we need to deal with. So we've got thoughts, sensations. These are the internal sensations we experience. When we talk later on about turbulence and takeoff and landings and stuff, the sensations we'll talk about are the external sensations, the sounds I hear, the vibrations I feel, the noise the plane makes, the bumping up and down, and my vestibular system, my balance system kicking in. They're the externally caused sensations. I'm talking now about the internal ones caused by your expectations that if I'm in this situation, I'm going to feel very uncomfortable. And then the third one, after thoughts, sensations, is behavior. What do you do when you experience those sensations and those thoughts that maybe need to be changed, altered, replaced, overwritten, because those behaviors are actually confirming your fear? And if you leave the plane and experience a moment of relief, got out of there, you will reinforce your fear profile and not get any closer to your target behavior of successfully managing a flight. I hope you understand that part. What we're trying to do is find out what's maintaining this behavior and what's actually making it worse without you even knowing you're doing that. Okay? That's where people like me come in handy, because we can sort of stand aside and offer you some ideas to play with. Okay, let's talk about claustrophobia. I've already mentioned being able to practice in elevators. Okay, now you don't have to have a fear of elevators, but what you do want to do is perhaps spend some time in some smallish elevators if you can find one where the doors close. And what I'd like you to do is make it a worse and a better scenario. So let the doors close and then work yourself up into a ladder temporarily. Oh my God, the doors are closed. What's going to happen? Follow a script. Okay, don't wait for the automatic thoughts to come. Follow a script, but they're the thoughts, the self-talk as we call it, that you are familiar with, that you use on the plane. But bring it out. You write it on a card or on your phone in the notes section, then bring it out, hold your breath, and make yourself go all very stiff. You're trying to simulate those yucky things that happen automatically on a plane. Now, you want to go, okay, practice that. What's the alternative? First part, hand on tummy. I'm just going to do some box breathing. 5 in, pause, 5 out, pause, 5 in, pause, 5 out, pause. Slowly and evenly from the diaphragm. Put your hand on your tummy. Pinky rests about where your belly button would be. Okay? If you want to, you can use your left hand, put it on your chest so that your left hand doesn't move, only your right hand, if you're right-handed, moves. Number one, that you're trying in this case to simulate the vagus nerve, which innervates the diaphragm and will then send return traffic up to change the pattern of heart rate beating. We call that heart rate variability, and then a message gets sent back up to your limbic system that says, all quiet on the Western Front, stand down at ease. So that's your biological way of shifting arousal around. Okay, we're trying to tell the amygdala, the limbic system, stand down at ease. That's number one. Self-talk. Doors closed, stay composed. Get your act together. Don't fall apart under the pressure. That is, don't decompose, okay? Stay composed. You've got to come up with a mantra. All the things I'm going to share with you, you come up with a mantra. Doors closed, stay composed, go into the third person. You've got this, you know what to do. You have a plan. Plan and anxiety do not go together. It's oil and water. Anxiety loves chaos. Anxiety loves, I don't know what the heck to do. I'm lost. I've been abandoned. I'm lost in my own thoughts. Having a plan, knowing it, seeing it in your mind, this is what I'm going to do. Step one, step two, step three, is the opposite of anxiety. Anxiety wants you to decompose or lose your composure. Having a plan helps you to regain composure. So now we've got thoughts, we've got arousal control through breathing, and now the behaviors that's when you want you to get tense, hold on to it, and then let it go, and then follow it up with the breathing. And then go into the elevator and come out, go into the elevator and come out several times. Now, if elevators don't do this, then the next part is to find a cupboard at home. Put the lights off and close the door in the cupboard. Okay? That's what you want to do. Go into a tight space where the kind of idea is I'm going to be short of air here to breathe. In other words, it's an ancient fear. Loss of oxygen, not being able to breathe, as well as being abandoned in a cave where no one's going to find you. Very ancient fear. So we're going to try and simulate that a little. Part of you is going to know you're not really in danger, but part of you is still going to experience the discomfort. And I want you to exaggerate the discomfort so that you can then learn to underplay it. You can learn to reverse the technique, okay? By going through the breathing. I'm perfectly safe here. You've got this. There's plenty of air to breathe, even though the sensations are, I'm starting to choke a little bit. So bring on the choky sensation. Bring it on yourself voluntarily, and then let it go voluntarily. And go through several cycles of this so that you know that if I automatically go like this, you know what this is, you know what to do, let's do this. I guess one more thing to put to this is maybe learn to label things. This is just your pesky limbic system trying to protect you under the perception of threat. It's just sensations of fear, but there's nothing here at the moment to truly be afraid of. I know I can rely upon my limbic system to really kick in when it needs to accurately. So label what your experience is, and at some point that means having to accept that, yes, from time to time I'm going to get really worked up. Not injurious, not dangerous, unpleasant, uncomfortable. Do not use distraction to make it go away. Do not use alcohol to make it go away, because all you're going to do is ultimately reinforce, I can't handle this. And I want you to learn to handle this. In a video that I'll put together very soon, we'll move from claustrophobia in closed spaces, and we'll do turbulence and anxiety during takeoff and landing. You can see where I'm going to go with this though. Give it a try, write some comments down, let me know how it goes, and I'll come back and refine it and answer you in the comment session when I get the chance. Enjoy the holidays coming up for yourself, and I'll be back soon with more information. Bye for now.